Cool sweatshirt, by the way. I know people noticed it, don't worry. I wish I had one of those, that'd be fun, right, Bill? Anyway, good morning, everybody. Sorry, my name is Stuart Atkins. I can confirm that. I'm good friends with Bill for a long time. I'm glad to be able to spend just a few moments with you guys this morning and hopefully sharing what I truly believe over the last number of weeks God has been preparing on my heart to be able to be here and be able to share this with you this morning. So I'm going to take a breath for a second because I usually start real fast and I just need to calm myself down. It is really good to be here and to be able to see you this morning. A few weeks ago, at the end of February, we started this whole series around practicing the way. We started it here in this room, but we also started it in core groups and be able to meet for the last 7 or 8 weeks together as we walk through this book written by this guy named John Mark Comer. And this practicing the ways is essentially a primer for spiritual formation. And so in this last couple of weeks, in this room, we've talked a lot about formation. We've talked about transformation, apprenticeship to Jesus. We talked about the spiritual disciplines. We've talked about meeting God in pain and suffering. We talked about sin. And then 2 weeks ago, we were in this room with a good friend of ours, now hopefully a good friend. His name is Mick. Mick Wilson flew from California. He owns a winery out there, and he brought his big friend, Vinny the vine. Literally, that's the name of the vine. It was a life-size vine that, he traveled with on a plane. Packed it up somehow, got it on a plane, brought it here, reassembled it, and it was standing right here. And he talked about John 15, the passage where Jesus talks about the vine and the branches. And until being able to see what Mick demonstrated and showed right here, did the passage about that vine and branch really, for me, truly come to life. That we are the branches, that Jesus is the vine that holds it together, and that God the Father is the gardener of that vineyard. And we, together with him, bear much fruit when we are connected to him. And we saw that picture displayed and painted out for us right here just a few weeks ago. And this morning I want to add or include a fourth character in this picture. A fourth one that is called a trellis. And if you have been at a winery or maybe even just seen a picture of a vineyard, more than likely you've seen what is known as a trellis. It's the support holding up the branches and the vine. And this trellis has a very specific job. It doesn't, on its own, does not produce fruit, but it does become or is a support structure for the branches and the vine. It is what lifts the branches off of the ground. The trellis is the structure that gives its direction and its growth. I need you to go here, in this movement, in this direction. It offers or improves sunlight exposure, giving the vine and the branches ability to be seen by the sun, and air circulation right underneath it, all of which helps with the ripening of the fruit. Now, while it does not produce the fruit itself, ultimately, it does make the plant more productive. So the fourth piece of this picture is this trellis. Now, as we conclude our time in practicing the way, John Mark Comer in his book concludes it with what he describes as crafting or creating a rule of life. And he depicts it as this trellis. And I want to give you an opportunity to hear what John Mark Comer says about this very thing. So I'm going to show you this video.
Rule of life is ancient language, so it can sound strange or even off-putting to our modern ears. But notice, it's rule of life, singular, not rules for life, plural. The original Latin word used by our spiritual ancestors was regula, where we get English words like regular and regulation, as well as rule and ruler, because it literally means a straight piece of wood. Some scholars believe it was the word used in the ancient Mediterranean for a trellis in a vineyard. In John 15, Jesus gave his most famous teaching on spiritual formation. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. If you do not remain in me, you are like a branch that is thrown away and withers. Such branches are picked up, thrown into the fire, and burned. If you remain in me and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. This is to my Father's glory, that you bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be my disciples. Early Christian teachers picked up on Jesus' metaphor and followed it to its logical conclusion. For a vine to bear much fruit, what does it need? A trellis, a support structure to lift it up off the ground, guide it in the desired direction, and guard it from damage, disease, and dangerous predators. In the same way, to abide in the vine and bear much fruit, apprentices of Jesus need a trellis, a support structure, to guard and guide their lives into transformation. A rule of life is exactly that, a trellis. It's a way to schedule into our daily life practices and relational rhythms that align our time and our habits to our deepest desires to be with Jesus and become like him.
Now, I think one of the lines in there that's probably the most comforting to me was the line where it says that this is not a set of rules for life, but in fact a singular rule of life. So we're not fearful of, well, if I do this, this, and this, and this, then I'm following the rules. This is a singular rule of life. Let me ask you this question for us to ponder this morning. When it comes to our spiritual formation, what is our hope? What is our aim? Where is it that we are heading? And I ask myself the question, what is my hope? What is my aim? Where am I hoping to head in my spiritual formation? The question is for you, what is your aim? Where are you hoping to end up? Where are you hoping to go? What is the thing that you're hoping for? And in our lives, we all have a rule of life. And it's just a matter of how we do certain things in our daily or weekly lives. It's how we look at the world and how we see our part in it. It is our rule of life. And sometimes it's real intentional and really thought out, and we feel really good about how our rule of life is going. And sometimes it feels scattered and distracted and unintentional, like things are just happening to us. But we have our rule of life. When it comes to our money, what is our rule of life called? We call it a budget. When it comes to our time, what do we call it? We call it schedules and calendars and reminders and alarms. When it comes to our health, what do we call it? What does it look like? It's whether or not we buy a gym membership or just walk to the end of the street or the corner or around the lake. It becomes about whether or not we have a good diet or choose to sleep well. That is our rule of life when it comes to our health. And our relationships, how do we deal with disappointment, loyalty, acquaintances versus the inner circle? That is our rule of life when it comes to our relationships. And our families, our close ones and our distant ones. What boundaries have we set up for ourselves? What rule of life do we follow when it comes to these categories in our lives? So what about our faith? What about your faith? What about my faith? Our discipleship? What about that? Our desire to be with him, to be like him, and to do what he does. What is our rule of life then? Do we have an intentional, thought-out plan for our discipleship? When you think about your life and your desire today, how might you describe majority of it? Maybe it's super hyper-focused on a few things. Maybe it's something like provision. Maybe it's making sure that for you and your family, you have what you need. Maybe your hyper-focused life looks like security and safety, making sure you have and keeping everything where you can see it, where you can control it. Maybe your hyper-focused life is about surplus, making sure you have enough, not just for you here and now, but for them later on. Maybe it's about pursuing happiness or certainty or ease. What does it look like to pursue these good things? These are good things. What does it look like for us and for you and your plan and our plan of having a rule of life? How is this going for us? Because in all of that, we have to mix in life as well. We have to mix in all the things that happen to us every single day. The good and the bad things, the happy things, the sad things, the peaceful times, the stressful times. We got to add in the busy times as well as life and its chaos. We have to add all those in and yet still pursue, go after something. Choose something to live our life and call it our rule of life. All of that happens all at the same time. So how do we continue to do that? Might there be something that we may choose to pursue first, above some of the things we just listed. I would say, may it be someone. For me, my greatest pursuit has always been Jesus himself. Let me rephrase that. My pursuit has always been Jesus. Whether I've reached that goal day to day. But that has been my heart, my desire, my truth. That I want to be able to pursue him. And who is this Jesus? He is this man, the Son of God, the one who was there from the beginning with the Father and the Spirit. In the Old Testament, the one who was prophesied about that he would come, and they talked about for generations. He comes down to earth as a man, living among his creation, teaching, healing, touching, changing history, influencing the world, willing to love others, willing to be loved, willing to be betrayed, handed over to his creation to be killed, like we'll talk about on Friday, to wage war against sin and its powers, to then raise from the dead, to be seen by his followers, ascend into heaven, and promise to return for his children so that they can be where he is. That's my pursuit. And while I don't hit it every single day, that is my hope, the aim that I have, and I hope the aim for you as well. Is he a person worth pursuing? John 15, when we talked about it here 2 weeks ago, Mick talked about the idea of abiding with Jesus. And the picture I have in my head, in my mind, is settling in his presence. What does it look like for us to be able to go to Jesus and go, I want to settle in your presence? For many of us who are married, maybe it's like that moment at the end of the day or sometime during the day where we just get to sit with our spouse and be. And we can say something or not. It's just being able to be there. Or it's maybe for you, it's your favorite place in your house, your favorite couch, your favorite room. It's maybe your safest place, the place that you would consider, I want to go there when I need to be safe and feel safe. And maybe your favorite destination that you get to go to or return to time after time throughout your year. But it's the place where you get to settle. And abiding with Jesus looks a lot like settling in his presence. In John 15, verse 5, it says, I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. So what is this fruit that this vine and branch produce? And we get an insight into that when Paul writes to the church in Galatia. In Galatians chapter 5, verse 22 and 23, it says this, but the Holy Spirit produces this kind of fruit in our lives. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And if you read, and as I read this to you and you read it for yourselves, does this sound good? Does this sound like the kind of people or person you want to be around? Someone filled with these things. Does this look like, or do you have a desire to be described as that person? Love, a person of joy, a person of peace, a person of patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Now in our lives that is normally busy and uncertain and unfair and seemingly hopeless and tired sometimes, this is still what we can hope for. This is still the hope and the desire. And I tell you, sometimes it feels so far off and so far away. Because the opposite's way easier. The opposite is what we see all the time. The opposite is what is modeled for us and what we know about and see in our workplace, on the streets, in the sports complexes you find yourself. It's easy to see these. Anger, entitlement, impatience, rudeness, unkindness, disrespect, indulgence. It's about me and now. It's disregarding everyone else, and it's about just us and me and mine. And I think it has something to do with what is described as the greatest chasm, the distance from here, our heads, to here, our hearts. The distance that it needs to go from I understand it to I want to be it. The distance from I should do that and I'm doing that. Some people describe it as knowing about him to knowing him. And we all have to start somewhere. We don't just get a pass and go like, oh yeah, I'm at the end. No, we start somewhere, and God and Jesus desires more for us. He says this is where you'll start, and your growth in your discipleship will get you from here to here. And what's the best thing for us? He is what he wants for us. Jesus is what Jesus wants for us. He is what he wants for us. If he wants what's best, it's him. That's who he desires for each and every single one of us. He doesn't just leave us there, he moves us. He wants us to move with him. It's his goodness and his kindness that produces love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. He is the one producing that for us. See, spiritual growth is a lot like relational or physical growth. In some ways, it's something that we know we need to do, but do we do it? Do we take the step to do it? Do we work and train? Why? It's hard, it's uncomfortable, it's difficult. And sometimes we need to ask for help, and sometimes we just want to quit. But we know at the end it's worth it. In that relationship that we're working really, really hard at, in the end we know it's for the best. In this physical change that we want to make in our bodies or do for ourselves, right now feels very, very difficult and challenging. But in the end, we know that it's worth it. It's like when you complete the marathon that you have been training for and sacrificing for and getting to the start line and then getting to the end and going like, all of that was worth it. At least they say so. I don't know. I've never done that. Some of you might be able to confirm that. But maybe it's that 5K or that 10K that you've worked so hard for. And you get to the end and you're like, oh, finally, this is what I was working towards. Maybe it's that debt that you've paid off, that you've worked for so long and for so hard to finally go, it's the last payment, it's done, and we are free. And you know that the hardship to get you there was worth it. And maybe it's you've grown in your relational ability to finally stand up for yourself or say the things that you know needed to be said in your relationships or your friendships. And you're like, 5 months ago I couldn't do it, but today I can. And the time that it's taken to get you from there to now, yes, it was hard, but it is worth it. The choices you make to eat better or sleep better, those come with consistency and repetition. And at the end of it, you go, that was worth it. So in our faith, we feel a lot of times like we're hanging on to what is like a metaphorical rope, right? Where you're just hanging on to this rope and you're feeling like, yes, I feel solid and secure. And the rope feels huge and big in my hand and I can hold on to it. And it's exactly what I need for my life right now. And things are going well and we can feel like we're holding on to this solid rope. But I know that there are times in our lives where we feel like we are nowhere close to that. And on the very opposite end of that, we're holding on by a thread. Maybe as thin as the floss that you hopefully used this morning or last night or sometime this week. But our faith feels like that we're just holding on. But it is in the holding on that faithfulness and perseverance is pictured. That's what perseverance and faithfulness is. Even if it is just a thread, even if it is just a piece of dental floss, but we're holding on. In James chapter 1, verse 2 through 4, it says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, lacking nothing." The movement we have from where we started to where we are today. And sometimes our greatest teachers comes from our most challenging times. And I think we have testimony of that throughout this room. Just when we feel like we are just hanging on. In Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 and 2, it says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a huge cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders, and let us run with," that word again, perseverance, hanging on, holding on, "the race marked before us." Doing what? Fixing our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. Fixing our eyes on Jesus. Choosing to abide with him. Settling in with him. May he be the greatest thing that we pursue, the greatest thing we chase after. He sees you. He sees us. He loves you and he loves us. And he desires more for us. In John 10:10, he promises, I promise a life, and a life to the full. That is Jesus' hope for us. He sees us here and he wants the best for us. He wants better for you. He wants more for you. He has been so good to us. May he be my aim, my hope. May he be your aim and your hope, that you would chase after him. See, these practices that we've been talking about, this rule of life, that's not the end. That's not the goal. That's not the end line. He is. I think for many of us, it's very easy to go, well, if I do the things, that's it. I'm doing the things. But let's sit together here, realize, no, these things help me get to him, get to who he is, what he desires from us. He is the end. We will do all these things. We will come up with this rule of life. But the end goal is him. It's knowing him, knowing what he desires for us. That's what our end goal is. These are just supports. Rule of life, the practices we'll talk about after Easter, these are just supports that hold up the branches, allowing it to give life and produce fruit. And so this morning I want to share with you just really quickly what my daily practices look like. Not in a means for you to just copy what I am about to share with you, but for you to go, what may it look like for me? When I think of my rule of life, if I think about the things that will get me from the beginning of my day to the end of the day, the parts of my growth and my being with Jesus, being like Jesus, and doing what he does, what might it look like for me, for you? So these are what I would share. My daily practice is this, only 3 of them that I continually try to do. 1, I start my day in silence and quiet with the Lord before my screen. And we know that that's the challenge for us in the day that we find ourselves, 2025. It's a conversation we had in our core groups just the last 2 weeks. Can this make a difference? And from the testimony of a friend in that group, absolutely. When she's decided, hey, actually I will choose to read or hear from God through his word before I open whatever app I would normally do, does that make a difference? It made a difference in her life. May it make a difference in our lives too. I start my day in silence and quiet before the Lord. The first thing I do, I get out of bed, I stand on my feet and I say, Jesus, you are sovereign in all the world, in all the earth, and you are Lord of my life. That 2 sentences, I start my day, most days, as best I can, with those declarations. And then I find my way downstairs and I get the coffee that I know I need and I sit on the fireplace or sit on the couch and I open God's word and I say, God, today I'm reading this prescribed plan. And that can look, for you, that can look any myriad of ways. For me, it's a plan that I am consistent with, that I open up and I start, I know where I'm starting today. But I start my daily practice with silence and solitude and quiet before the Lord. I also have a kind of a gratitude practice. If you hear a couple months ago, I talked about this. Before I go to bed at night and I lay my head down on the pillow, the things I'm thinking about is, God, what am I grateful for? And sometimes I get like 1 deep. Sometimes I get 3 or 4 deep before I fall asleep. But what better place to fall asleep than the presence of God? Being grateful for what he's done in that day. So that's the second practice that I have daily. And the third one is I just want to be outside in some way, some way for some amount of time. I just want to go outside. I want to take a breath. I want to acknowledge my need and dependence for God. And that is literally just walking out the sliding door in the back of my house, looking up at this tree that's now blooming, see the blue skies and go, God, I need you today. And sometimes I'm there 5 minutes, and sometimes I just turn around and go back inside. But it's just a daily practice that I have to be in silence and quiet before God, before my screen, to find some kind of gratitude practice throughout the day, and to go outside and say, God, I trust you for what I need today. In the weekly practices, I commit to coming to church. Sure, yes, I work here. I come here a lot. But even if I didn't, my commitment would be to make sure if I can, I will be here. I'll sit in these seats, I'll sing these songs of worship, I'll connect with the friends around me. So on a weekly basis, I'll commit to being part of a church. And a goal that I have for myself and for my family, is to commit to having a moment of practicing rest and Sabbath every week. Some variation of it, some version of it, something that says today I'm intentional with my rest and my Sabbath and stepping away and taking a break from what life is. So on the weekly, I commit to coming to church. I also commit as a family and myself to be able to have rest and Sabbath. And on monthly, my practice is to find a way to serve, as well as to find a place like Ascent to be able to give. Of what the Lord has given me, I return to Him and say, God, use this in whatever way you need to glorify yourself and make yourself known amongst people. So I monthly choose a place to serve, find ways to do that, and find ways to give. So I don't know what it looks like for you. I don't know what your rule of life looks like. I'm 46 years old. I'm a grown man with three kids. You're maybe not 46 years old, a grown man with 3 kids. You may be a student. What is your rule of life? You may be a mom, a dad. You may be single, you may be married, you're CEO, COO. What does your rule of life look like? What is the thing that you're choosing to do? Saying, God, I'm intentionally planning to grow in my discipleship, to be with you, to be like you, to do what you would do. When we talk about this rule of life, I hope that you don't get stuck on it's a rule of life. It is an invitation. It's an invitation from a personal God saying, what might be the thing that holds you up? What might be the trellis that is strengthening you, getting you up off the dirt, allowing you to be seen by the sun, allowing you to produce more fruit? The fruit that we produce when you are connected to me. That is what this is. This trellis is our invitation. Don't make it the thing. Jesus is the thing. Jesus is the one. But this trellis is an invitation to be in relationship with Him, to be settling with Him. Why? Because He is good. And He is the best thing that we can have today. The band's going to sing a song over us. You know, it's a song I heard not so long ago, and as soon as I heard it, I didn't stop my car, but I was weeping, driving my car, hearing the song, because these words were exactly what I hoped for. I'll read you just a few of them, and this is, at some point we'll sing this together, and it says, you didn't leave me like I was, you didn't have to save my soul, but you did, and I won't forget it. And I'm praising you because you did not leave me where I was. God is good. God desires the best for you. Why? Because He is that best. And for some of us this morning, in some ways, I'm going to ask that God would raise the volume of this song in your heart, not just your head, but in your heart, that the words of this song would rise up in you, that the volume would get turned up so loud that you cannot ignore it, that you cannot walk away from it anymore. That He's inviting you in, going like, I desire a relationship with you. I desire settling in with you. And I pray that God would raise the volume of this song in your heart, that you cannot walk away this morning the same way you walked in. But I'm also praying for some of you in this room this morning whose lives are so chaotic in a different place, that God may turn the volume down in this song, that you would be quiet enough to be able to hear the words that He sings to you and over you. Whatever place you find yourself, I trust that these words will not just be words up on the screen up there and back here, but these words will start to echo in your very heart and move from your head down here. So if you would, a band's going to lead us in the song. I trust that you will hear these words knowing that they come from the Savior Himself.